You'll need another hair transplant watching Raz. Listen, the one thing about Raheem Sterling that I will agree with is some of his misses are mad.
He can be very, very frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like I've always felt with him, if there's an opportunity to score and you need someone to think within a split second to put it in the back of the net, he's one of the best I've seen in the Premier League. You give him more than 2 or 3 seconds to think about scoring, and that's when you might end up with with a clown moment. So yeah, I do get that, but yes. Sterling to Arsenal. Sterling to Arsenal. Do they do what they did with Havertz? What would you say about him coming to Arsenal, Potsy?
I don't think that it will happen. I wouldn't want it to. I personally would rather have Sancho than Sterling. Personally, I just think Sterling has kind of had his best days, and I don't think that'll get us across the line. I don't think that is the signing that would make Arsenal fans and rivals go, "Okay, we're serious now." But again, I don't know what players out there that realistically could do that at the moment with 3 days left. I kind of feel like there's players out there that are on that level. So I don't see Sterling any different to somebody coming in that wouldn't move it. And I just think that at 29, it ain't for me. Arteta likes him. We know this. And Raheem Sterling and Arteta had a good relationship along with Leroy Sané. But there's other names I'd rather have than Raheem Sterling, for sure.
I said it yesterday. I mean, it brings us into it's another story today. It's the 5th time in 3 days that Arsenal are kind of linked with Nico Williams. They do caveat. Every single journalist is. The tweets don't caveat it. The articles do, and I always tell people read the bloody articles. That it's hard. It's unlikely the wages would be high. You've just completed the signing for Moreno. Genuinely, what I believe Arsenal should do is they should make a mammoth, groundbreaking for them as a football club offer to Nico Williams to convince him to join this week. And there's still talk about Osimhen and Arsenal, which is an interesting one because they wanted him, but were quoted 130 million. There's talk the deal can get done for 165 million now, which would make sense why Arsenal waited all summer, let everybody else do the negotiations and swept in. But for me, I don't think it matters if you don't get him. I think screw the PR, grow a pair, thicken up your skin when it comes to people saying, oh, you got rejected. I think Arsenal this week should make a big move for Nico Williams. Reading all the reports I have about Nico Williams to Arsenal the last 2 days, they've essentially all said he's your number one target still from an attacking perspective. You want him, but Arsenal feel that he might be too difficult to get this window. That for me is that's journalistic code for they're going to make an attempt, but they don't know if they're going to get him or not. But Arsenal don't want us to say they're going to try and bid because they're going to say they didn't officially go in. So I do think you're going to make a move, but I think you can convince him. I think if you offer him enough money, you sell the project correctly, you show him where you already are, you add Nico Williams to that left-hand side, no disrespect to Martinelli, you go up a level and it helps Saka. Because suddenly you can't stick 2 or 3 players on Saka if you've got Williams on the other side. The maths don't math. It means everybody's going to suddenly get more space in your team. And he isn't just a speed demon, Nico Williams. He's got technical ability and skill. So, yeah, this isn't me trying to put pressure on Arsenal because some gooners have DM'd me and had a go at me for this. I'm like, well, I'm just saying what I think Arsenal should do. City have gone and re-signed Gundogan. That's a game changer, in my humble opinion. I think Moreno's good, but you need that top attacker. Yes, backup for Saka's great, but it's Nico Williams, it's Osimhen, Gyökeres. One of those 3, in my opinion, has to be signed this week for Arsenal to win the league, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it might need to be 2 of them as well, because if we've got rid of Smith Rowe and we've got rid of Fabio Vieira, who's gone on loan, and we've got rid of Eddie Nketiah and Reece Nelson looks like he's going to be leaving, that's 4 players. And there's none of them that have come in. Ethan Nwaneri has been promoted, so they're saying that he will cover for Smith Rowe. Havertz can play as one of the attacking positions if he has to, but it's not really my key position. I think he's a number 9. So I think we might need 2. I think we might need a Nico Williams and a striker, if I'm honest. And I don't see that happening. If we got one of the positions, I want it to be a striker, personally, because I don't think that Havertz and Jesus is enough. Jesus is injured again. Havertz is a good option, but the only one that we've got. And with Eddie being sold, I think we need another striker. Whether that's Victor Osimhen, Victor Gyökeres, or someone that we've not even spoken about yet, I don't know. I don't see any massive heavy rumours. The one we all want is Alexander Isak. That doesn't look like it's happening. The winger we all want is Nico Williams. It doesn't look like that's happening. But there are rumours and reports suggesting over the last week that we are going to go and try to at least see if this can happen this window. Now, it looks as if everything from the camp of Nico Williams is suggesting that he wants to stay at Athletic Club for one more year, and then he's going to assess where he wants to go next year. And it might be that he stays in Spain and has a dream of Barcelona, or maybe he does fancy a new project and moves away to England. But for me, Arteta wants him. The Athletic have reported that he is the number one target for Arteta in that winger role. And they've spoken to reps, and he's started to put PowerPoint presentations together like he did for Rice about how he can see him fitting in to the system and the project and the team. That's all great. But if the player isn't set on you, you're wasting your time. The fee isn't going to be an issue, because he's £49 million release clause, isn't it? So the release clause is there. It's just about how much we're going to be willing to pay him. I think he wants quite a lot of money a week. So look, he would be a phenomenal signing. He would. A lot of the rival teams, I'm sure Nobbins and LB and some of the other guys will go, oh, that's not good for us. So I don't really want them signing Nico Williams or potentially a striker as well. So that's what we got to do, man. This is what Arsenal are at now. We're that close to going and competing. At the moment, I have City winning the league. I think the Gundogan situation has made things even more difficult for us. I think Savio, whatever you want to go, I think he looks like a Mahrez replacement. So for me, City is stronger than last year. Yes, they haven't got Julian Alvarez anymore, and they probably are looking to replace him. But Manchester City is strong, and they can replace Rodri now with either a double pivot of Gundogan and Kovacic, or you can just play Gundogan because the guy's ridiculous, right? So they look even better than they did last year already for me. So I need to be seeing a couple of players coming in, and Edu and Arteta have got a very, very busy time for the next few days. If there's still rumours that all these players are leaving Arsenal, Ramsdale, Kivior, Tierney, Nelson, Nketiah's gone today. There's rumours that, some of these players might still be on the move. I'm thinking, wow, we need to bring some players in then, because we're very short at the moment. So, yeah, man, I need to see at least one exciting player like Nico Williams or a striker like Gyökeres or somebody like that come in for Arsenal to actually go, do you know what, we've got enough now. And until that happens, I have Man City to win the league, man.
Yeah, the Nico signing, I agree with Dan. It is a ceiling raiser for Arsenal. I've said that I think Arsenal are one elite attacker away from like cementing themselves like as favourites or joint favourites, whatever term you want to use, for the title. He's an upgrade on Martinelli. You can also play out on the right if needed, so you could give Saka a rest as well. It would work from a footballing perspective, absolutely. The main issue is that it's very hard to get players out of Bilbao, like historically, especially the elite players. It's not the easiest task at all. We know that allegedly it's hard to set maybe going to Barcelona in a year or so. The other issue from an Arsenal perspective, from a logistical perspective, is one of wages. Like Dan touched on it. As I understand it, he would want to be made like top earner, or in the same bracket as or maybe even more than Saka, more than Ødegaard, etc. And then that creates a domino effect of Nico becomes the top earner or one of the top, and then when Saka gets a contract renewal, Ødegaard, etc. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Arsenal have gone from a relative in relative terms, their wage bills quite low down. I think it's like maybe third or fourth highest in the league. Suddenly that escalates and skyrockets up to like a City level, which makes sense because if you compete for the title, that's a thing. But that's just something to bear in mind if you are like an Arsenal executive or whatever. This signing could have massive financial repercussions, not necessarily in transfer fee, but more on like wages across the whole club.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans talk about over the years and even recently, don't want to break the wage structure, don't want to hurt the wage structure. And I do understand the logic based on when it's been done in the past. It hasn't gone down particularly well. But you also have to remember, Arsenal fans, and I know you haven't won the titles yet, but Liverpool's biggest mistake in recent years is that when they built a team that won the Champions League, won the Premier League, is that they carried on trying to buy in the same way, which was let's try and buy cheap and develop. Those deals don't always work where the good player becomes a world-class player. And even if it does happen, you end up in this little period where your team isn't as good again. When you get to the top, it's very difficult to go and sign a player that you want to integrate straight into your first team or replace somebody in your first team without paying a premium for the player in terms of wages and salary. You know, if City went up to a striker and said, you're coming in to replace Haaland, why it's not inconceivable that they're going to ask for as much or more than Haaland. Well, you think I'm better. I'm replacing that guy. You think I'm here. Equally, you have to look at the commercial side of a player. Nico Williams, and I know that you shouldn't sign anybody based on commerciality, and Nico Williams isn't that, but the commercial, the commercial element to him and the marketing and the money that can be made from him, you have to compensate a player for. And I think it's okay to sign players who suddenly get paid more than a lot of the individuals at your club if it's justifiable. I don't think there's a player at Arsenal that would be shocked if you signed Vinicius Jr. and he was paid the most. Not only would he be your best player, and you could argue Nico Williams could be, but it's the fame and the size and the endorsements that come with him. Of course, it's doable. So I don't think when it comes to signing Nico Williams, the one thing Arsenal fans should worry about is the wage structure and it upsetting this player and upsetting that player. And, oh, you know, Martinelli feels sad because he's getting paid double what he's on. It will be as good, be as consistent, win as much, and be as marketable as Nico Williams, and we'll give you the same. As long as you handle that and you give everybody the opportunity to earn that money based on performance, status, iconic state. And again, the marketability is so key. I mean, if you're literally a player that's struggling to get a boot sponsorship, but you've got another player that's got 100 brands fighting over him, of course he's going to get fucking paid more than you. Like, I do actually think as well, footballers understand this. I don't think footballers are stupid. You know, I don't think any of them are angry that Ronaldo's got 40 million followers in 2 days on YouTube. It's probably more now, to be fair, because they all know how. That shows you why he gets paid more than anybody else, because that's the pull he has. And a lot of footballers now, they're not even paid for they are paid for their footballing ability, but so much of their salary is based on their commerciality as well, if that makes sense. So I think Arsenal should try and break the bank this week, offer him whatever, 300 grand a week, 350 grand a week, sell the project to him, tell him that he's going to be the star, tell him that he's going to be the main. And again, I think it would be one of the most seismic, groundbreaking signings in Arsenal's history. And I'm still looking for the example. When have Arsenal signed a player who's young, got the world at his feet, that the giant European clubs are wanting? When have Arsenal signed that player first?
Difficult.
And that is, again, it's not a dig. I know you've got Ozil and you've got Sanchez, different scenarios.
Ozil and Sanchez were different, no, really.
Ozil wanted to leave Real Madrid, or Real Madrid wanted to get rid of him, one of the two. Same with him. I'm just talking about, I mean, you signed Thierry Henry, but it wasn't working at Juve for him at the time. I just feel like this would,
maybe.
Bergkamp's a great shout. Yeah, Bergkamp was
British transfer record, I think. But
Bergkamp's a great example.
That is a great example, but he wasn't a young kid with the world at his feet. He was in his 20s, weren't he? But it's a great example. The one I would probably go with is Jose Antonio Reyes, bless him. That's probably the one I would go with. At Highbury at 21 at Seville, he was wanted by Real Madrid and everybody. Ended up going to Real Madrid in the end, but not quite working.
Yeah, you could. Do you know who you could throw in that? But yeah, again, he only lasted a year at your club. Anelka was a great example. Yes. He was a young up and coming guy, but it hasn't happened very often for Arsenal. In my view, it's not something you've done. And I feel like and you're talking, some of these players we're talking about are 20, 30 years ago. And this is why I think you've done a lot of great things in this new structure of yours in the last few years, where the renewal of the contracts of the Odegaards and the Sakas, increasing their wages, paying them the going rate for players of their level and of their achievements. I remember when you started doing it, I was like, oh, this is annoying me. Because normally what would have happened to Arsenal was Saka, but if Saka was 10 to 15 years older, he'd had already left your club. Because Wenger would have said, you're not getting paid 200 grand a week. And Man City or Man United or another club would have come in and said, well, we will. You only lost Van Persie because you weren't willing to pay him what a player of his level was worth. I think you could have kept Vieira, not all of them, but I think the Vieiras of this world, the Fabregases, if you'd have been prepared to pay the going rate, I think some of those players would have stayed at your club. And then it sends another message to people. So, look, as I say, I think you guys this week should be trying to break that bank because I think Nico Williams is brilliant, and he could be the difference between coming second narrowly and winning narrowly. And I tell you now, no one's going to care outside of Arsenal. No Arsenal fan will care if he's your highest paid player. If he comes in, performs, and you win the league, it will become the only clubs that ever really focus on net spend and wage bills are the losers. City fans don't go on their parade with all their trophies going, see the wage bill, boys. Oh, look at that. Let's get another trophy. No one cares. It's only
No.
the losers because they go, oh, yeah, but we pay £100 million a year less in wages. I know we came second by 5 points, but that's actually a fucking win when you think about it. That's a loser mentality. That really is a loser thing to worry about, in my opinion.
I agree.
This here says you're right. We need Nico Williams. He's Martinelli on steroids in a good way. The problem with Leo is he's not as fast as Martinelli. No to Sterling is what Christian says here.
Yeah.
I should say, like, Leao's also like regarded as like this like elite needle mover, a ceiling raiser. That might be another. That would be another massive statement signing from an Arsenal perspective. Him or Nico, but yeah, as we've established, probably do need that elite forward somewhere.
Who'd you say, Rafael Leao?
That's who this chap is referring to. Yeah,
I think he meant Leo Trossard, but yeah.
Apologies. My bad.
No, you are right though, Nobbins. You are
But no,
right.
it's a great shout. It's a great shout.
Great shout.